ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवां च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहिगणललिता श्रीविशाखावितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश कुपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुप एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जगद्गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Jai. Okay, today we continue from chapter 5, text number 19. Ihaivatarjitah sargo yesham samye stitam mana nirdosham hi samam brahma tashmad brahmanite stitaha. Iha, in this life, eva, certainly, tai, by them, jitaha, conquered, sargaha, birth and death, yesham, of those, samye, in equanimity, stitam, so situated, manaha, mind, nirdosham, flawless, he certainly, samam, in equanimity, Brahma, the supreme, tasma, therefore, Brahmani, in the supreme, te, they, stita, are situated. Translation. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like a Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Purport. Equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is the sign of self-realization. Those who have actually attained to such stage should be considered to have conquered material conditions, specifically birth and death. As long as one identifies with this body, he is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he is elevated to the stage of equanimity through realization of self, he is liberated from conditional life. In other words, he is no longer subjected to take birth in the material world, but can enter into the spiritual sky after his death. The Lord is flawless because he is without attraction or hatred. Similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, he also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. Such persons are to be considered already liberated, and their symptoms are described below. Hare Krishna. Anyone can continue.
Yes, Prabhu, I will continue, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
न न प्राऋष्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नोद्वेजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिरा बुद्धिरसम्मूढा ब्रह्माविद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः. Na never prarashyet, rejoice, priyam, pleasant, prapya, achieving, na, does not, udvichet, agitated, prapya, obtain, cha, also, apriyam, unpleasant. Sthita, sthira buddhihi, self-intelligent, asamodaha, unbewildered, brahmavit, one who knows the supreme perfectly, brahmani, in the transcendence, sthitaha, situated, a person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God is to be understood as already situated in transcendence. Purport. The symptoms of the self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body but the fragmental portion of Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called sthira buddhi or self-intelligence. Is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. It's called Brahman realization or self realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
ब्रह्मभायस्पर्शेव असक्तात्मा विदत्य आत्मनि यत् सुखं स ब्रह्मयोगयुक्तात्मा सुखम अक्षयम् असानुते. Bhaya, Sparshu, in external sense, pleasure, Sakta Atma, one who is not so attached, Vindanti, enjoys, Atmani, in the self, Yat, that which, Sukham, happiness, Saha, that, Brahma Yoga, concentrated in Brahma, Yukta, Atma, self connected, Sukham, happiness, Akshayam, unlimited, Asnute, enjoys. Translation: such a liberated person is not attracted to material senses, pleasure, or external object, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. This way, then in this way, self-realized person enjoy unlimited happiness, for he concentrate on the supreme purpose. Sri Yamunacharya, a great devotee in Krishna consciousness, said, "Idavadi mama chitta Krishna padarvindo nava nava rasa dhamneta tvaratum astu tadavidhi batanari sangame smramane bhavati mukha sustu nishi Nishthivanam cha." Since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the at the at the throat at the thought and my lips curl with distaste. A person in Brahma Yoga on Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste of material sense pleasure altogether. Their highest pleasure is in terms of matter in sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under the spell, and materialistic cannot work at all without this motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. That is the taste in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. A Krishna conscious person is not attracted by any kind of sense pleasure due to his being a liberated soul. Hare Krishna.
May I read, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. यही सम संसप्रयासज्जा भोग भोगा दुःखा योनया एव ते अद्य अन्त्वनाथ कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधा. Those he certainly some samsprasajha by contact with the material senses, bhogha enjoyment, dukkha distress, yonayaha source of eva certainly they they are adi in the beginning, atvanta subject to Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, na never Tesu in those Ramate take delight. Dukkha, the intelligent. Translation: an intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasure have a beginning and end, and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Purport: material sense pleasure are due to the contact of material senses, which are all temporary, because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasure, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana, it is said, Ramate yogino nanate nante satyananda chid atmani iti Rama पदनेषु परम ब्रह्मभिधीयते. The mystic drive ultimate unlimited transcendental pleasure from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth. The personality of Godhead is also known as Rama. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also it is said, Nayam Deho Deha Bijam Narloke Kastana Kamanarthate Vid Bhujam Ye Tapo Divyam Putraka Yena Sattvam Suddhiyad Yasmad Brahma Sukheyam Tav Anantam. My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure well in this human form of life. Such pleasure are available to the stool eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified, and as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam 5.5.1. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasure, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasure, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. May I continue, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, yes, Prabhu.
Is there any devotees wants to continue?
Prabhu, you continue, Prabhu. After this, if any devotee want to continue, let them continue. No
Yes,
issue.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. संक्नोति संक्नोत्यव्य यः सोढुं प्राक् शरीर विमोक्षन्ते विमोक्ष विमोक्षसन्त विमोक्षसन्त विमोक्षन्त कामक्रोध भावं वेगं सा युक्ता सा सुखी नरः शक्नोति able to do इह एव in the present body yah one who whom to tolerate prak before sarira body vimokshante giving up kama desire krodha anger yud yudbhavam generated from Vegam Varj Saha he Yuktha in trance Saha he Sukhi happy Naraha Naraha human being. Translation: before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desires and angry, he is a yogi and he is happy in this world. Purport. If one wants to make steady progress on the path of self-realization, he must try to control the force of the material senses. There are the force of talk, force of anger, force of mind, force of the stomach, force of the genitals, and force of the tongue. One who is able to control the forces of all these different senses and the mind is called Goswami or Goswami. Such Goswami live strictly controlled lives and forgo for forego although altogether the forces of the senses. Material desires, when unsatiated, generate anger, and those the mind is anxious become agitated. Therefore, one must practice to control them before one gives up this material body. Prabhu, Prabhu, Prabhu. Okay. Material body. One who can do this is understood to be self-realized and is those happy in the state of self-realization. It is the duty of the transcendentalist to try nitpiciously, strenuously to control desire and anger. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Who wants to continue?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
May I read?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu. You can read.
Yonata sukho nataramas tathantar yotir evaya sa yogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto digachati. Yah one who anta sukha happy from within, anta arama active within, tatha as well as anta yoti aiming within, eva certainly, yah anyone, sa he yogi mystic, brahma nirvanam liberated in the supreme, brahma bhuta self-realized, abhigachati attains. Translation: one whose happiness is within, one who is active within, who rejoices within and is illuminated within, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the supreme and ultimately he attains the supreme. Purport: unless one is able to relish happiness from within, how can one retire from the external engagements meant for deriving superficial happiness? The liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experience. He can therefore sit silently at any place and enjoy the activities of life from within. Such a liberated person no longer desires external material happiness. This state is called Brahmbhuta, attaining which one is assured of going back to Godhead, back to home. Labhante Brahma Nirvanam Rasaya Kasina Kalmasa Chinna Daidha Yata Manah Sarvabhuta Hiterata. Labhante achieve Brahma Nirvanam, liberation in the Supreme. Rasaya, those who are active within. Sina Kalmashaha, who are devoid of all sense. Chinna, torn off. Dvadha, duality. Yata Atmanah, engaged in self-realization. Sarvabhuta, in all living entities. Height, in welfare work. Rata, engaged. Translation: one who is beyond duality and doubt, whose mind is engaged within, who is always busy working for the welfare of all sentient beings, and who is free from all sins, achieves liberation in the Supreme. Purport: only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as a supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in first class welfare work without being liberated in the supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no doubt about the supremacy of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. This is the state of divine love. A person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of those of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The real cause of one's difficulty in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material tabernacle. Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, who wants to read?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Kamakroda vimuktanam yatinam yata chetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Kama, desires, krodha, anger, vimuktanam, of those who are so liberated, yatinam, of the saintly persons, yata chetasam, of persons who have full control over the mind. Abhitaha, assured in the near future, Brahmanirvanam, liberation in the Supreme, Vartate is there, Viditatmanam, of those who are self-realized. Translation. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. Purport. Of the saintly persons who are constantly engaged in striving towards salvation, one who is in Krishna consciousness is the best of all. The Bhagavatam confirms this facts as follows. यत्पादपङ्कजपलाशविलासभक्त्या कर्माश्यं ग्रथितम् उत्ग्रथयन्ति सन्ता तद्वानरिक्तमतयो यतयोऽपि रुद्धा स्रोतो गणस्तमरणं भज वासुदेवम्. Just try to worship in devotional service Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even great sages are not able to control the forces of the senses as effectively as those who are engaged in transcendental bliss by serving the lotus feet of the Lord, uprooting the deep-grown desire for fruitive activities. In the conditioned soul, the desire to enjoy the fruitive results of work is so deep-rooted that it is very difficult even for the great sages to control such desire despite great endeavors. A devotee of the Lord constantly engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, perfect in self-realization, very quickly attains liberation in the Supreme. Owing to his complete knowledge in self-realization, he always remains in trance. To cite an analogous example of this, Darshana Dhyana Samsparshair Matsya Kurma Vihangamaha Svanyapatyani Pushnanti Tataham Api Padmaja. By vision, by meditation, and by touch only do the fish and the tortoise, the birds, maintain their offspring. Similarly, do I also, O Padmaja. See all these that lay eggs. Seems like all of them meditate on the eggs and then the eggs are born. The fish brings up its offspring simply by looking at them. That's vision. So fish looks at the eggs. The tortoise brings up its offspring simply by meditation. This is quite amazing. This is first wireless connection in material world. The eggs of the tortoise are laid on land, and the tortoise meditates on the eggs while in the water. I think could science maybe study this some way, or can they see this? They always study some nonsense. They try to go to the moon, waste of time. But here is nice argument that they should study somehow and try to prove it.
Yes, bro.
Similarly, a devotee in Krishna consciousness, although far away from the Lord's abode, can elevate himself to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly. Yes, this was one person in YouTube or somewhere he made a post that how can we go to the Goloka Vrindavan just by chanting? It's so far away. How can this chanting? That he made a video where he zoomed out all the way from material world to the Goloka Vrindavan, trying to prove her point. But that's so weird. Trying to apply some material ideas to spiritual things. But here it is said, although far away from the Lord's abode, can elevate himself to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly, by engagement in Krishna consciousness. He does not feel the pangs of material miseries. This state of life is called the Brahma Nirvana, or the absence of material miseries due to being constantly immersed in the Supreme. Hare Krishna. Okay, one more. Sparshan kritva bahirbahyam chakshushaivantare bhruvo pranapanau samau kritva nasabhyantaracharinau yatendriya manorbuddhir munir moksha parayanaha vigatecha bhaya krodho yah sada mukta eva saha. Sparshan, external sense objects such as sound, etc. Kritva, doing so. Bahi, external. Bahyan, unnecessary. Chaksuhu, eyes. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Antare, within. Bruvo, of the eyebrows. Prana, apanau, up and down moving air. Samau, in suspension. Kritva, doing so. Nasa, abhyantara, within the nostrils. Charinau, blowing. Yata, controlled. Indriya, senses. Manaha, mind. Buddhi, intelligence. Munihi, the transcendentalist. Moksha, liberation. Parayanaha, being so destined. Vigata, discarded. Icha, wishes. Baya, fear. Grodha, anger. Yaha, one who. Sada, always. Muktaha, liberated. Eva, certainly. Saha, he is. Translation: shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, the transcendentalist becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. Purport: being engaged in Krishna consciousness, one can immediately understand one's spiritual identity, and then one can understand the Supreme Lord by means of devotional service. When he is well situated in devotional service, one comes to the transcendental position, qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. This particular position is called liberation in the Supreme. After explaining the above principles of liberation in the Supreme, the Lord gives instructions to Arjuna as to how one can come to that position by the practice of mysticism or yoga, known as Ashtanga Yoga, which is divisible into an eightfold procedure called Yama, Niyama, Asana, Prana, Yama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Yes, yesterday I saw there was some advertisement came to me in Facebook, and it was some new Finnish school they started, and it's called something like Baby Guru or something like this. And they have they advertise that they have this yoga process. They said we teach the children of 3 years to 15 years this yama, niyama, asana, and always I remember this, that no, this is not possible. Why are you cheating people? I always feel like I want to call them and ask, why are you cheating people? Make a kirtan center right now.
In India, it is common everywhere.
Yes, Prabhu. And here they get this from government, they get this certificate that you are yogi. that,
All
then,
folks.
then you can conduct yoga classes. You are a authorized yogi. It's so funny. I see all kinds of yogis in Finland. They all think they do yoga. In the 6th chapter, the subject of yoga is explicitly detailed, and the end of the 5th is only preliminarily explained. One has to drive out the sense objects such as sound, touch, form, taste, and smell by the pratyahara breathing process in yoga, and then keep the vision of the eyes between the two eyebrows. and concentrate on the tip of the nose with half-closed lids. Yeah, this is one thing. They think that you have to close your eyes, and they all close their eyes. And one time in one video, Nimanita Prabhu chastises about this. He says that nowhere it is said that you close your eyes and do meditation. It's half closed. But maybe there is some process that needs like both eyes fully closed, but I don't know. Here it is at least said that half closed. But this they don't teach in the yoga center. They teach that now you listen to this melodious music and close your eyes and fall asleep and you will go to meditation. That's so funny. There is no benefit in closing the eyes altogether, because then there is every chance of falling asleep. Nor is there benefit in opening the eyes completely, because then there is a hazard of being attracted by sense objects. The breathing movement is restrained within the nostrils by neutralizing the up and down moving air within the body. By practice of such yoga, one is able to gain control over the senses, refrain from outward sense objects, and thus prepare oneself for liberation in the Supreme. This yoga process helps one become free from all kinds of fear and anger, and thus feel the presence of the Supersoul in the transcendental situation. In other words, Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of executing yoga principles. This will be truly explained in the next chapter. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always engaged in devotional service, does not risk losing his sense to some other engagement. Yeah, this is important. This is a better way of controlling the senses than by Ashtanga Yoga. Yeah, sometimes people just read this translation and then they don't read the rest of the Gita and they think Krishna said like this. Or they read the whole Gita, but they choose only this point and they dismiss everything else. They say, oh, Krishna said we need to do yoga. Let's open yoga center right now. But they need to read the purport of Prabhupada. Otherwise, they cannot understand. Okay, who wants to read next one? Haribol.
भोक्तारं यज्ञतपसां सर्वलोकमहेश्वरं सुहृदं सर्वभूतानां ज्ञात्वा मां शान्तिं रक्षति. Bhoktaram, beneficiary, yajna, sacrifices, tapasam, of penances and austerities, sarvaloka, all planets and the demigods thereof, Maheshwaram, the Supreme Lord, Surudam, benefactor, sarva, all, Bhutanam, of the living entities, Gnata, thus knowing, Mam, me, Lord Krishna, Shantim, relief from material pangs, Vachati, achieves. The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. Purport. The conditioned souls within the clutches of illusory energy are all anxious to attain peace in the material world, but they do not know the formula for peace, which is explained in this part of the Bhagavad Gita. The greatest peace formula is simply this: Lord Krishna is the beneficiary of all in all human activities. One should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord, because he is the proprietor of all planets and demigods thereon. No one is greater than he, is greater than the greatest of the demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. In the Vedas, the Supreme Lord is described as Tam Ishwaranam Paramam Maheshwaram. Under the spell of illusion, living entities are trying to be lords of all they survey, but actually they are dominated by the material energy of the Lord. The Lord is the master of material nature, and the conditioned souls are under the stringent rules of material nature. Unless one understands these bare facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individually or collectively. This is the sense of Krishna consciousness. Lord Krishna is the supreme predominator, and all living entities, including the great demigods, are his subordinates. One can attain perfect peace only in complete Krishna consciousness. This fifth chapter is a practical explanation of Krishna consciousness, generally known as Karma Yoga. The question of mental speculation as to how Karma Yoga can give liberation is answered here with: to work in Krishna consciousness is to work with the complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator. Such work is not different from transcendental knowledge. Direct Krishna consciousness is Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is a path leading to Bhakti Yoga. Krishna consciousness means to work in full knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme Absolute, and the perfection of this consciousness is full knowledge of Krishna or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A pure soul is the eternal servant of God as his fragmental part and parcel. He comes into contact with Maya, illusion, due to the desires to lord it over Maya, and that is the cause of his many sufferings. As long as he is in contact with matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. Krishna consciousness, however, brings one into spiritual life even while one is within the jurisdiction of matter, for it is an arising of spiritual existence by practice in the material world. The more one is advanced, the more he is freed from the clutches of matter. The Lord is not partial toward anyone. Everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in an effort to control the senses and conquer the influence of desire and anger. And attaining Krishna consciousness by controlling the above mentioned passions, one remains factually in the transcendental stage or Brahman Nirvana. The Eightfold Yoga mysticism is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness as the ultimate purpose is served. There is a gradual process of elevation in the practice of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pratyahara, Dhyana, Dharana, Pranayama, and Samadhi. But this only preface perfection by devotional service, which alone can award praise to the human being. It is the highest perfection of life. Hare Krishna.
Those ends the Bhakti Vedanta chapter of
Chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Karma Yoga or action in Krishna consciousness.
Revolve.
Haribol.
Ribo, who wants to start next chapter?
Sankhya Yoga. Okay, I can. Sankhya Yoga. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Anyarstitha Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sa Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Nirga Nirgnir Nirna Chakriha. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Lord said, Anashrita, without shelter, karma, phala, the result of work, karyam, obligatory, karma, work, karoti, performs, Yahavan who sa, he, sannyasi, in the renounced order, cha also yogi, mystic, cha also na, not, ner, without, agni, fire, na, nor, cha also akriya, without duty. The Blessed Lord said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no work. Okay. Purport. In this chapter, the Lord explains that the purpose of the Eightfold Yoga system is a means to control the mind and the senses. However, this is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali. Although the Eightfold Yoga system is recommended in this chapter, the Lord empathizes that the process of Karma Yoga or acting in Krishna consciousness is better. Everyone acts in this world to maintain his family and their paraphernalia, but no one is working without some self-interest, some personal gratification, be it concentrated or extended. The certain criterion of perfection is to act in Krishna consciousness and not with a view to enjoying the fruits of work. To act in Krishna consciousness is the duty of every living entity because all are constitutionally parts and partial of the Supreme. The Lord, the parts of the body work for the satisfaction of the whole body. The limbs of the body do not act for self-gratification but for the satisfaction of the complete whole. Similarly, the living entity who acts for satisfaction of the supreme whole and not for personal satisfaction is the perfect sannyasi, the perfect sannyasi, the perfect yogi. The sannyasis sometimes artificially think that they have become liberated from all material duties and therefore they ceases to perform Agniyothara Yagna, fire sacrifices, but actually they are self-interested because their goal is becoming one with the impersonal Brahman. Such a desire is greater than any material desire. But it is not difficult. But it is not without self-interest. Similarly, the mystic yogi who practices the yoga system with open eyes open eyes. Where Prabhu that is of of open eyes, seizing all material activities, desires some satisfaction for his personal self. But a person acting in Krishna conscious works for the satisfaction of the whole without self-interest. A Krishna consciousness person has no desire for self-satisfaction. His criterion of success is the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus he is the perfect sannyasi or perfect yogi. Lord Chaitanya, the highest perfectional symbol of renunciation, prays in this way: Na dhanam, na janam, na sundirim, kavitam va jagadish kamaye, mama janmani, janmaneshware, Bhagavad Bhaktir Ahitukitvai. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor to enjoy beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. What I want only is the causeless mercy of your devotional service in my life, birth after birth. Haribol. Thank you. Who wants to continue? May I, Prabhu? Okay, continue. Prabhu. I think.
Okay, Haribol. I can also read one.
Okay, Prabhu. Haribol. Thank you.
Yam sanyasam iti prahuryogam tam vidhi pandava na yam asanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. Yam what sannyasam renunciation iti das prahu they say yogam linking with the supreme tam that vidhi you must know Pandava O son of Pandu na never he certainly asanyasta without giving up sankalpaha self-satisfaction yogi a mystic transcendentalist bhavati becomes kaschana anyone. Translation: what is called renunciation is the same as yoga or linking oneself with the supreme. For one can become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So no one can become a yogi unless he renounces. Purport: real sannyas yoga or bhakti means that one should know his constitutional position as the living entity and act accordingly. The living entity has no separate independent identity. He is the marginal energy of the supreme. When he is entrapped by material energy, he is conditioned, and when he is Krishna conscious or aware of the spiritual energy, then he is in his real and natural state of life. Therefore, when one is in complete knowledge, one ceases all material sense gratification or renounces all kinds of sense gratificatory activities. This is practiced by the yogis who restrain the senses from material attachment. But a person in Krishna consciousness has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi. The purpose of knowledge and of restraining the senses as prescribed in the jnana and yoga processes is automatically served in Krishna consciousness. If one is unable to give up the activities of his self-nature, then jnana and yoga are of no avail. The real aim is for a living entity to give up all selfish satisfaction and to be prepared to satisfy the Supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for any kind of self-enjoyment. He is always engaged for the enjoyment of the Supreme. One who has no information of the Supreme must therefore be engaged in self-satisfaction, because no one can stand on the platform of inactivity. All these purposes are perfectly served by the practice of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Okay, wants to read next one.
So someone is asking, I will read it before you asked actually. You can continue. Who was it? I don't know.
Bro, you can continue.
I will only continue, Prabhu.
Yes, bro, you can continue.
Parokshor munir yogam karmakar karanamuchyate yoga hridayasya tasyaiva samakaranamukhyate. Ararokshoho, of one who has just begun yoga, munehe, of the sage, yogam, the eightfold yoga system, karma, work, karanam, the cause, uchyate is said to be yoga, eightfold yoga, arudyasya, one who has attained, tasya is eva, certainly, samaha, cessation of all material activities, karanam, the cause, uchyate is said to be. For one who is a neophyte in the eightfold yoga system, work is said to be the means, and for one who has already attained to yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. Purport. The process of linking oneself with the Supreme is called yoga, which may be compared to a ladder for attaining the topmost spiritual realization. This ladder begins from the lowest material condition of the living entity and rises up to perfect self-realization in pure spiritual life. According to various elevations, different paths of the ladder are known by different names. But all in all, the complete ladder is called yoga and may be divided into three parts, namely Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. The beginning of ladder is called the Yoga Riksha stage, and the highest rung is called Yoga Rudra. Concerning the Eightfold Yoga system, attempts in the beginning to enter into meditation through the regulative principles of life and practice of different sitting postures, which are more or less bodily exercises, are considered fruity material activities. All such activities lead to achieving perfect mental equilibrium to control the senses. When one is accomplished in the practice of meditation, he ceases all disturbing mental activities. A Krishna conscious person is however situated from the beginning on the platform of meditation because he always thinks of Krishna. And being constantly engaged in the service of Krishna, he is considered to have ceased all material activities. Completed, Prabhu. Yeah, Prabhu.
Who was next one? Let's read one more.
Okay, I can. Yadhi nindriyartesu na karmeshu anusajjite sarva sankalpa sannyasi yogaruddhas tadochyate. Okay. Yada Yada when he certainly not indriya artishu in the sense gratification, na never karmeshu in the fruity activities, agnu sajyate does necessarily engage, sarva sankalpa all material desires, sannyasi renouncer, yoga artha elevated in yoga. At the time Uchyate is said to be. Translation: a person uh, is to have attained to yoga when having renounced all material desires. He neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. When a person is fully engaged in when a person fully engaged in Krishna, in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification or in fruitive activities. Otherwise, one must be engaged in sense gratification, since one cannot live without engagement. Without Krishna consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered or extended selfish activities. But a Krishna consciousness person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and thereby be perfectly detached from sense gratification. One who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top rung ladder. Reboot.
Oh, thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Haribol. Okay, now let's go six astakam prayers. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamaha davagni nirvapanam Shreyah Kairavachandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamritasvadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam.
नाम्नामकारे बहुधा निजसर्वशक्तिः स्तत्रार्पिता निमित्तस्मरणेन कालः एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन्नमापि दुर्देव मे दृश्यमिह जनिनानुरागः
तृणादिपि सुनिचेन तरोरपि शेषणामानेन मानदेन कीर्तनेन तदा हरि
नदनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितम् अजगदीश कामये मम जन्मानि जन्मानीश्वरे भवतद्भक्तिरायतु कि त्वयि।
ऐनन्दतनुजा किङ्करं पतितां मां विषमे भवां बुधौ कृपा तव पादपङ्कजास्थितधूलिसदृशं विचिन्तय
नयनं
नयनम्
गगनं
okay
continue
continue
bro
okay bro
continue.
thank नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गदगदहृदया गिरा पुलकेर्निचितं वपु कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे पश्यति
युगायितं निमेषेन चक्षुषा परिरक्ष्यतं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दं विरहेण मे
आश्लिष्य वा पादरथं विनष्टु माम् अदर्शनं मर्मार्थं करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः।
Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
oh my lord oh my lord your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings and those you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energy. There are not even hard and fast rules of chanting these names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be tolerant than a tree, devoid of all senses of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling your separations, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally.
हरि बोल श्री शिक्षाष्टकम की जाय नाम संकीर्तन की जाय पंचतत्व की जाय
जय
प्रभु की जाय श्री
जय
कृष्ण चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जाय जगत गुरु श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जाय जय गौर प्रेमनंदे हरि बोल
हरि बोल हरि हरि बोल
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
वैष्णव